The stars had never seemed so close. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder, watching the swirling colors of jump space fade away as his ship returned to normal space. This was humanity's fifth successful faster-than-light journey, and each one still filled him with wonder. The Earth vessel had been exploring the nearby star systems for 3 months now, mapping new worlds and searching for signs of intelligent life. They found it sooner than expected. The massive alien ship appeared without warning. It was 3 times the size of the Pathfinder, shaped like a crescent moon made of silver metal that seemed to shimmer in the starlight. Jake's tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Bennett, immediately ran scans on the vessel. "Captain, I'm reading advanced energy signatures. Their technology is far beyond ours in some areas," Lisa reported, her fingers dancing across her console. "But they're not powering weapons. This looks like a diplomatic vessel." Jake nodded slowly. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. First contact with an alien civilization. He straightened his uniform and ordered his crew to open all communication channels. The face that appeared on the view screen was unlike anything Jake had ever imagined. The alien had pale blue skin, 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, and a mouth that seemed to smile even when at rest. It wore elaborate robes covered in symbols that glowed with a soft light. "Greetings, primitive species," the alien said through the translation device. Its voice was smooth and confident. "I am Ambassador Zexthar of the Velkorian Empire, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council. We have detected your crude attempts at faster-than-light travel, and have come to welcome you to the galactic community." Jake felt a flash of irritation at being called primitive, but he kept his expression neutral. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Pathfinder. We are honored to meet you, Ambassador. Humanity has long hoped for this day." Zexthar's smile widened. "Excellent. Then you will be pleased to accept the Council's generous terms of membership. We have governed this galaxy for 10,000 years, bringing peace and order to all civilized worlds." Lisa brought up the data package that the alien ship had transmitted. Her eyes widened as she read through the terms. She quickly sent them to Jake's personal screen. Jake read through the document and his blood ran cold. The Council's terms were not an invitation. They were a demand for complete surrender. Humanity would have to dismantle all military forces. Every human colony would be subject to Council oversight. Earth would pay an annual tribute of resources and technology. Humans would need Council permission to settle new worlds. Any violation would result in what the document coldly called corrective action. "Ambassador," Jake said carefully, "these terms are quite extensive. We'll need time to review them with our government." Zexthar waved a hand dismissively. "There is nothing to review. These are the standard terms offered to all new species. You should feel fortunate. Many species were conquered before the Council brought order to the galaxy. We offer you protection and guidance. In exchange, you simply acknowledge our authority." Lisa leaned close to Jake and whispered, "Captain, these terms would make us slaves in everything but name." Jake nodded slightly. He looked back at the alien ambassador. "I need to be clear about something, Ambassador. You're asking humanity to give up our freedom, our right to defend ourselves and our independence. Is that correct?" For the first time, Zexthar's smile faltered. "Those are harsh words. We offer you the chance to join a peaceful galactic civilization. Surely you understand that primitive species like yours cannot be trusted with weapons and unrestricted expansion. History has shown us that young races are dangerous without proper guidance." "Guidance," Jake repeated. "That's an interesting word for control." The ambassador's 4 eyes narrowed. "Captain Morrison, I sense resistance in your tone. Let me be perfectly clear. Every species that has achieved faster-than-light travel in the past 10,000 years has accepted these terms. Some accepted immediately. Others required more persuasion, but all eventually understood that the Council's way is the only way to ensure peace." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him, waiting for his response. He thought about Earth, about the billions of humans who had fought for centuries to build a free society. He thought about the colonies on Mars and Europa, where people were building new lives on new worlds. He thought about what his grandfather had told him before he died. Freedom isn't something you're given. It's something you take and hold on to with everything you've got. "Ambassador Zexthar," Jake said firmly, "I need to transmit your terms to Earth for official review, but I can tell you right now what the response will be. Humanity will not accept these conditions. We're willing to engage in trade, cultural exchange, and peaceful cooperation with the Galactic Council. But we will not surrender our sovereignty or disarm ourselves. If the Council wants a relationship with humanity, it will be as equals, not as masters and servants. The bridge went silent. Lisa stared at Jake with wide eyes. The alien ambassador's expression went through several rapid changes, settling on something that looked like disbelief. Captain Morrison, I don't think you understand what you're saying, Zexthar said slowly. No species has ever refused first contact terms. The Council has maintained order in this galaxy since before your species learned to make fire. You are one small world with primitive technology. We are thousands of worlds with the power to reshape stars. You cannot possibly think you can stand against us. I'm not threatening anyone, Ambassador, Jake replied calmly. I'm simply stating that humanity values its freedom. We're happy to be friends and trading partners with the Council, but we won't be your subjects. Take our message back to your leaders. Maybe they'll surprise us and treat us with respect. Zexthar stood up from his seat. This is foolishness. I will report your defiance to the Council. They will send representatives to help you understand your mistake. I suggest you reconsider your position before that happens. The transmission ended abruptly. Lisa let out a breath she'd been holding. Captain, did we just reject first contact with an alien civilization? Jake turned his chair to face his crew. Every eye was on him. We rejected their terms, not contact itself. There's a difference. Send a full report to Earth Command. Include everything, especially the part where they called us primitive and expected us to hand over our freedom. As the Pathfinder turned toward home, Jake wondered what he had just started. But he didn't regret his decision. Humanity had come too far and fought too hard for freedom to give it up now. Not even to an empire that spanned the stars. The Council chamber on Centralis Prime was a monument to power. The massive dome stretched 300 meters high, its walls covered in the names of 10,000 member species. At the center, 50 counselors sat in floating chairs arranged in a perfect circle. They represented the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, species that had held authority for thousands of years. Today, that authority faced something none of them had ever experienced before. High Counselor Vren slammed his appendage against the console in front of him. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. Explain to me how a species that discovered faster than light travel 3 months ago has the audacity to refuse our terms. Ambassador Zexthar stood in the center of the circle, looking uncomfortable. High Counselor, I delivered the standard terms as protocol demands. The human captain rejected them. He claimed his species values independence more than membership in our civilization. Independence, Vren repeated, his voice dripping with contempt. A primitive concept from a primitive species. In 10,000 years, no one has refused our welcome. These humans must be made to understand their place. Counselor Marin, representing the Taurian Republic, raised a hand. She was younger than most counselors and known for asking difficult questions. Ambassador, did the humans show aggression? Did they threaten violence? No, Counselor, Zexthar admitted. The captain was polite but firm. He offered friendship and trade but refused to accept our authority. Then perhaps we should consider a different approach, Marin suggested. If they're willing to negotiate, negotiate? Vren interrupted. We do not negotiate with species who refuse first contact protocols. Military Commander Thulos, what forces do we have near human space? A massive alien with armor-like skin stood from his seat. Commander Thulos had led Council military operations for 200 years. We have 3 warships within 2 days' travel of their outer colonies, High Counselor. I recommend a show of force. Once the humans see our military power, they'll reconsider their foolish position. Make it so, Vren ordered. Send the warships to their Mars colony. Have them deliver a message, accept our terms or face the consequences. 2 days later, Governor Pete Harris stood in the command center of Mars colony, watching 3 alien warships drop out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the star system. The colony was home to 2 million humans, living in domed cities across the red planet's surface. It was humanity's first major colony beyond Earth and a symbol of human ambition. How big are those ships? Pete asked Colonel Amy Rodriguez, who commanded the Olympus Defense Station orbiting Mars. Each one is about 800 meters long, Amy replied from her screen. They're powering weapons and scanning our defenses. Looks like they want us scared. Are you scared? Pete asked. Amy grinned. Not even a little bit. These council types have been the only power in the galaxy for so long. They forgot what real competition looks like. Sir, I recommend we show them what human engineering can do. The lead council ship opened a communication channel. The alien captain appeared on screen, his face showing the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. Human colony, this is War Master Kelroth of the Galactic Council Fleet. Your species has refused to accept council authority. We are here to demonstrate why that was a mistake. You have 1 hour to transmit your unconditional surrender, or we will disable your orbital station and occupy your colony. Pete looked at Amy. Colonel, you're the military expert. What do you recommend? Let me paint them a picture, sir, Amy said. She switched to a direct channel with the council ships. War Master Kelroth, this is Colonel Amy Rodriguez commanding Olympus Station. I want to make something clear. We didn't ask you to come here. We didn't threaten you. You came into our space and demanded our surrender. That's called an invasion where we come from. You dare speak to me in such a manner? Kelroth sputtered. We could destroy your primitive station with a single shot. Maybe, Amy agreed. But before you do, let me show you something. She sent commands to the defense systems. All around Mars orbit, weapon platforms that had appeared dormant suddenly powered up. Railgun batteries locked onto the council ships. Missile tubes opened. Energy weapons charged with a distinctive hum that the council sensors would easily detect. Kelroth's expression changed from arrogance to concern. What is this? Our scans showed minimal defenses. That's because we didn't want to seem unfriendly, Amy explained. But since you've made your intentions clear, I'll be direct. Those 3 ships of yours are currently targeted by 48 railgun platforms, each capable of firing projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. We have 300 missiles locked onto your positions, and we have 6 energy weapons that can punch through your shields. You're bluffing, Kelroth said, but his voice had lost its certainty. Let me prove it, Amy replied. She designated a small asteroid 5,000 kilometers away. Watch that rock. She fired a single railgun. The projectile crossed the distance in seconds and hit the asteroid with such force that it shattered into thousands of pieces. The council ship's sensors would have tracked the projectile's speed and calculated the kinetic energy. It was far beyond what they expected from a species so new to space travel. That was 1 gun at low power, Amy continued. We have 48 of them, and they can fire much faster and harder than that. Now you came here to threaten us. I'm going to give you a choice instead. You can leave peacefully and we'll forget this happened. Or you can find out what happens when you threaten 2 million human civilians. Your call, War Master. The silence stretched for nearly a minute. Pete watched the council ships on his screens, seeing their weapons power down slightly. They were recalculating, reassessing. These were not the primitives they expected. This is not over, Kelroth finally said. The council will hear of this aggression. You came to our colony with warships and demanded surrender, Amy shot back. That's aggression. We just defended our people. There's a big difference. One of the council ships suddenly fired a warning shot, a plasma bolt that streaked past Olympus Station. It was meant to be intimidating. Instead, it was a mistake. Amy's response was immediate and precise. 3 railguns fired simultaneously, targeting the ship's shield generators. The projectiles hit with devastating accuracy. The council ship's shields collapsed and alarms blared across their bridge. Critical systems failed. The ship began to drift, powerless. The next volley won't be a warning, Amy said coldly. Leave now. The 2 remaining council ships grabbed their disabled companion with tractor beams and jumped to faster-than-light speed, fleeing the system. Pete let out a long breath. You just started a war, Colonel. No, sir, Amy replied. They started it when they came here with threats. We just finished it. And now the council knows that humanity isn't going to roll over for them. Back on Centralis Prime, the council chamber erupted in chaos when the news arrived. High Counselor Vren stood in shock as the reports came in. 3 warships sent to intimidate the humans, and they had retreated after one was crippled. How is this possible? Vren demanded. They're primitives. They've had faster-than-light travel for months, not centuries. Counselor Marin stood up. Perhaps, High Counselor, we should reconsider calling them primitive. A species that can build weapons like that is not to be underestimated. This is an outrage, Vren shouted. We cannot allow this defiance to stand. The humans must be brought to heel. But around the chamber, other counselors were exchanging worried glances. For the first time in 10,000 years, The Galactic Council had encountered a species that said no, and had the power to back it up. The galaxy was changing, and the Council didn't know how to handle it. 3 weeks after the incident at Mars, the Galactic Council tried again. This time they sent mediator Kelrax, a being known throughout the galaxy as the most skilled diplomat the Council had. Kelrax had negotiated peace treaties between species that had been at war for centuries. If anyone could bring the humans into line, it would be him. President Helen Carter sat in the diplomatic chamber deep beneath Geneva, waiting for the alien mediator to arrive. She was a woman in her 60s, who had led humanity through the exciting and terrifying years since first contact. Around her sat her closest advisors, including Secretary of Defense Marcus Webb, a former Marine general who had helped design Earth's defense strategy. "Are you sure about this, Madam President?" Marcus asked quietly. "The Council has thousands of member worlds. We're one planet with a few colonies. Maybe we should consider compromise." Helen looked at him with tired eyes. "Marcus, I've read their idea of compromise. They want us to accept Council laws that would prevent us from expanding beyond our current colonies for 50 years. They want to inspect our military facilities annually. They want veto power over our foreign policy. That's not compromise. That's surrender with better packaging." The doors opened and Mediator Kelrax entered. He was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow softly. His species, the Nexari, were known for their wisdom and patience. He bowed respectfully to Helen. "President Carter, thank you for seeing me," Kelrax said, his voice calm and measured. "I come not with threats or demands, but with a genuine desire to find common ground." "I appreciate that, Mediator," Helen replied, gesturing to a seat. "Please, let's talk." Kelrax sat down, folding his long fingers together. "I have studied your species extensively over the past weeks. Humans are remarkable. You achieved faster-than-light travel through pure determination and innovation. You've built thriving colonies on hostile worlds. You have a rich culture of art, music, and literature. The Council recognizes all of this. But," Helen prompted. "But you are also young," Kelrax continued. "In galactic terms, you are children. The Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years precisely because we have rules and order. Without those structures, chaos reigns. We've seen it before. Young species full of ambition and confidence spread too quickly and create conflicts. The Council exists to prevent such disasters." Marcus leaned forward. "With respect, Mediator, the Council maintains peace by forcing everyone to follow their rules. That's not cooperation. That's domination." Kelrax didn't seem offended. "Is it domination if it prevents war? If it saves lives? Secretary Webb, your own history is full of conflicts between human nations. How many millions died in your world wars? The Council prevents such tragedies on a galactic scale. By taking away everyone's freedom to choose," Helen said. "Mediator Kelrax, I understand your perspective, but humanity will never accept being told what we can and cannot do by a government we had no part in creating. We're willing to follow reasonable laws, but we need a voice in making those laws." Kelrax pulled out a data tablet. "Then perhaps we can find a middle path. The Council has authorized me to offer revised terms. You may keep your military forces, but they cannot exceed current levels. You may settle new worlds, but only with Council approval. You will not pay tribute, but you will accept Council observers who can report on your activities. In exchange, you gain access to Council technology, trade networks, and protection." Helen read through the terms carefully. Marcus did the same. After several minutes, she looked up. "These terms are better than the originals, but they still make humanity a second-class member of galactic civilization. We would have restrictions no other species accepts. We would be watched and limited." "That's not equality, Mediator. That's probation." "It is a path to full membership," Kelrax insisted. "Prove yourselves over time, and these restrictions can be lifted." "How much time?" Marcus asked. 10 years? 100? 1,000? Kelrax hesitated. "That would be determined by the Council based on your species' development and cooperation. In other words, forever," Helen said flatly. "Because there will always be some reason why we're not ready. Some excuse to maintain control." She stood up. "Mediator Kelrax, I respect your efforts to find compromise, but I cannot accept terms that treat humanity as children who need to be supervised. We're willing to engage with the Galactic Council as equals. We'll follow reasonable laws that apply to everyone, but we will not accept permanent second-class status. If the Council cannot accept that, then we'll have to go our separate ways." Kelrax stood as well, and for the first time he looked genuinely sad. "President Carter, I fear you don't understand what you're choosing. The Council has ways of making life very difficult for species who refuse cooperation. Economic sanctions, trade blockades, diplomatic isolation. You would be alone in a very large and sometimes dangerous galaxy. We've been alone since we first looked up at the stars, Helen replied. We'll manage. After Kelrax left, Marcus turned to Helen. Madam President, he's right about one thing. If the Council wants to make things difficult for us, they have the resources to do it. I know, Helen said. But I also know something the Council doesn't. We're not going to be alone for long. She was right. Over the next month, humanity received secret communications from 3 different alien species. The Taurian Republic, a mid-sized civilization of traders and explorers. The Nexian Collective, a group of mining colonies on the edge of Council space. And the Kreelan Federation, a warrior culture that had chafed under Council restrictions for decades. Captain Jake Morrison, who had become humanity's unofficial ambassador to independent species, met with representatives from all 3 civilizations aboard a neutral station near the edge of explored space. The Taurian representative, a being named Vexer, spoke first. Captain Morrison, we've watched with great interest as your species has stood up to the Council. Many of us have wanted to leave for years, but we feared the consequences. The Council controls key trade routes and has military forces that can crush any single species. But they can't crush all of us together, added the Nexian representative, a crystalline being named Shara. If humanity is willing to lead, we're willing to follow. Our mining operations produce resources the Council needs. If we cut them off, it would hurt their economy significantly. The Kreelan representative, a warrior named Gorath, growled his agreement. My people are fighters, but we've been forced to serve as peacekeepers for Council interests. We want to choose our own battles, fight for causes we believe in. If humanity can guarantee our independence, we'll stand with you. Jake looked at each of them carefully. I need to be clear about something. If you join us, the Council will see it as rebellion. There might be war. Are your people prepared for that? Our people are prepared for freedom, Vexer replied. Whatever the cost. Jake sent a coded message back to Earth. Admiral Kevin Shaw, humanity's top military strategist, received it and immediately called a meeting with President Carter and her cabinet. Madam President, this changes everything, Kevin said, displaying a star map. If these 3 species join us, we're not just one planet standing alone. We're the foundation of a coalition. The Council will have to take us seriously. Helen studied the map. They'll also see us as a threat. Kevin, can we defend not just Earth but our new allies as well? With their resources combined with ours? Yes, Kevin replied confidently. The Nexian mines can provide raw materials. The Taurians have shipyards. The Kreelans have military experience. Together, we can build a fleet that the Council will have to respect. Or a fleet that will make them desperate enough to attack, Marcus warned. They're going to attack anyway, Helen said quietly. The moment those 3 species announce they're leaving the Council, there will be war. The only question is whether we'll be ready for it. She made her decision. Contact our new friends. Tell them humanity stands with them. We'll guarantee their independence, and together we'll show the Council that freedom is not negotiable. When the announcement came 3 days later, the galaxy shook. 3 member species formally declared they were leaving the Galactic Council and forming an alliance with humanity. The statement was broadcast on every communication channel, translated into every major language. On Centralis Prime, High Counselor Vren smashed his console in rage. This is open rebellion. The humans have poisoned these species against us. We cannot allow this to stand. Perhaps we should consider why these species chose to leave, Counselor Marin suggested carefully. If they were happy under our rule, would they risk everything to join the humans? They leave because they're foolish, Vren snarled. And now they will learn what happens to those who defy the Council. Military Commander Thulos mobilized the fleet. All of it. Thulos nodded grimly. As you command, High Counselor. How many ships? Every warship we can spare, Vren replied. 200 vessels. We will crush this rebellion and show the galaxy what happens to species who forget their place. The message went out across Council space. The greatest military force the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years was being assembled. And its target was humanity and its allies. The Frontier Gate was a strategic point in space where 3 major trade routes met. For centuries, it had been a peaceful crossing point for merchant ships traveling through Council space. Now it was about to become a battlefield. Admiral Kevin Shaw stood on the bridge of the battleship Liberty, watching his fleet take position. 75 human warships, 20 Taurian cruisers, 30 Nexian defense platforms, and 15 Kreelan battlecruisers. It was the largest fighting force humanity had ever assembled, and it was outnumbered nearly 2-1 by the Council fleet approaching from the other side of the gate. "Admiral, we're getting the final civilian transport clear of the combat zone," reported Commander Greg Nelson from his position commanding the evacuation fleet. Greg was a steady officer who had volunteered to protect the merchant ships and civilian vessels fleeing the area. "Last convoy is jumping to safety now. The field is yours, sir." "Good work, Commander," Kevin replied. "Get yourself to safety as well. This is going to get rough." "With respect, sir, I'll stay at the edge of the combat zone in case anyone needs emergency assistance," Greg replied. "Liberty's code says we don't abandon our people." Kevin smiled slightly. That was exactly the kind of thinking that made humanity dangerous to its enemies. They didn't just fight for territory or resources. They fought for each other. Captain Jenny Foster checked in from the carrier Valiant. "Admiral, all fighter squadrons are ready for launch. My pilots are eager, sir." "Keep them steady, Jenny," Kevin said. "This isn't going to be like the simulations. The Council has numbers on their side. We need to be smarter and faster." The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a massive formation. 200 warships, each one a symbol of Council power. At their head was Fleet Commander Orsix, a veteran of 100 battles against pirates and raiders. He had never lost an engagement. Orsix opened a communication channel, his three-eyed face filling the screens of every ship in the human fleet. "Rebel vessels, you are in violation of Council law. Surrender immediately and you will be granted mercy. Continue this foolish resistance and you will be destroyed." Kevin activated his own communication channel. "Fleet Commander Orsix, this is Admiral Kevin Shaw of the Earth Defense Fleet. We're not rebels. We're free people defending our right to exist without your government controlling every aspect of our lives. You're not fighting criminals here. You're fighting families, communities, and civilizations that just want to be left alone." "Pretty speech," Orsix replied dismissively, "but words won't save you from reality. You are outnumbered and outgunned. I have 200 warships. You have barely half that number. This battle is over before it begins." "Maybe," Kevin said calmly, "but here's something to think about. Your ships have been the dominant force in this galaxy for 10,000 years. You know what that means? You've gotten comfortable. You fought raiders and pirates, small threats that couldn't really hurt you. You've forgotten what it's like to face an enemy that can hit back just as hard as you hit them. We haven't forgotten. We learned those lessons in the hardest way possible, fighting each other for thousands of years before we united. So yes, you have more ships, but we have something you don't." "And what is that?" Orsix asked mockingly. "Experience with real war," Kevin replied. "Let's dance." The Council fleet opened fire first. Hundreds of energy beams and plasma bolts crossed the space between the two forces. The human fleet's shields flared bright as they absorbed the incoming fire. Several ships took damage, but none were destroyed in the opening volley. Kevin watched the tactical display carefully. The Council was using a standard formation, something called the Wall of Thunder. It was designed to maximize firepower and intimidate enemies. It worked well against disorganized pirates. Against a coordinated military force, it was predictable. "All ships pattern Delta 7, Kevin ordered. The human fleet split into 3 groups, moving in different directions at high speed. The Taurian cruisers went left, using their superior engines to flank the Council formation. The Kreelan battlecruisers went right, their heavy armor allowing them to absorb hits while closing distance. The human ships and Nexian platforms stayed in the center but spread out, making themselves harder to target. Orsix tried to adjust his formation, but the Wall of Thunder wasn't designed to split up. His ships were too close together, limiting their maneuverability. Meanwhile, the human fleet was using quantum targeting systems that Jake Morrison's crew had helped develop. These systems predicted enemy movements and adjusted firing solutions in real time. Jenny Foster launched her fighter squadrons from the Valiant. 60 small, fast craft streaked toward the Council fleet. The Council had fighters too, but they were designed for patrol duty and chasing smugglers. The human fighters were built for one purpose: destroying much larger ships. The human fighters carried something the Council had never seen before: antimatter torpedoes. Small, fast, and devastating. When they hit a target, they didn't just damage it. They annihilated it. The first Council cruiser exploded into a ball of white fire as 6 antimatter torpedoes struck its engineering section. The second followed moments later. The third tried to retreat but was caught by a Kreelan battlecruiser's main guns. "Admiral, their left flank is collapsing," reported the tactical officer. "The Taurian cruisers are tearing through their escorts." Kevin nodded. "Tell the Taurians to keep pushing. Don't give them time to reorganize." Commander Orsix was screaming orders on his bridge, trying to maintain control of a battle that was slipping away from him. His ships were designed to fight individually or in small groups. They weren't prepared for the kind of coordinated assault the human coalition was unleashing. A council dreadnought, 3 times the size of any ship in the human fleet, pushed forward trying to use its massive firepower to turn the tide. It targeted the Liberty, firing its main cannon. The beam was powerful enough to punch through a moon. But the Liberty was already moving, its captain having anticipated the attack. The beam missed by 300 meters. The Liberty returned fire with its railgun batteries. Solid projectiles accelerated to a fraction of light speed slammed into the dreadnought's shields. The first few shots were absorbed, but the railguns kept firing. 10 shots, 20, 30. The shields collapsed, and the next volley punched through the dreadnought's armor like it was paper. The massive ship began to break apart, secondary explosions rippling through its hull. "Target their command ship," Kevin ordered. "If we can take out Orsix, the rest might lose coordination." Captain Jenny Foster saw her opportunity. She directed her remaining fighters toward the Council flagship. The defensive fire was intense and she lost 12 fighters in the approach. But the rest got through, and their antimatter torpedoes found their target. The flagship's shields failed. The ship tried to jump to faster than light speed, but the damage was too severe. Its engines exploded and the great vessel went dark, drifting in space. Without their commander, the Council fleet began to lose cohesion. Some ships continued fighting. Others tried to retreat. A few surrendered. Commander Greg Nelson, watching from the edge of the battle, saw several Council ships that were damaged, but not destroyed. Their life support was failing, and their crews were sending distress signals. "Admiral Shaw, I'm picking up emergency beacons from disabled Council ships," Greg reported. "Permission to begin rescue operations?" Kevin looked at the tactical display. The battle was won, but it would look bad if they left enemy crews to die. "Permission granted, Commander. Let's show them what humanity is really about." Greg's ships moved in, using their tractor beams to pull survivors from damaged vessels. The Council crews were confused when the human ships that had been shooting at them minutes ago were now saving their lives. The Battle of the Frontier Gate lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the Council had lost 68 ships destroyed and another 45 captured or disabled. The human coalition lost 12 ships destroyed and 23 damaged. It was a decisive victory, but it came at a cost. On the Liberty's bridge, Kevin looked at the casualty reports. 3,000 human lives lost, another 2,000 from their allies. Each number represented someone's child, parent, or friend. Victory felt hollow when he thought about the families who would get terrible news in the coming days. But the galaxy was watching. Every species that had ever considered leaving the Council but feared the consequences saw what happened at the Frontier Gate. The mighty Council fleet, the force that had kept order for 10,000 years, had been defeated by a coalition of free species who refused to bow. On Centralis Prime, High Counselor Vren sat in silence, staring at the battle reports. 68 ships lost. Commander Orsix captured by the humans. The wall of thunder shattered. Counselor Marin stood before him. "High Counselor, we need to reconsider our approach. The humans and their allies have proven they can defend themselves. If we continue this conflict, we'll lose more than just ships. We'll lose the respect and fear that has kept the Council in power." "Are you suggesting we surrender to these rebels?" Vren asked dangerously. "I'm suggesting we negotiate," Marin replied. "Real negotiation, not the ultimatums we've been offering. The galaxy is changing, High Counselor. We can change with it or be swept away by it." 3 months after the Battle of the Frontier Gate, the galaxy looked very different. 15 more species had formally requested to leave the Galactic Council. Another 30 were considering it. The Council's authority, once absolute, was crumbling like a sand castle at high tide. High Counselor Vren had been removed from power in a dramatic vote. The Council members who had supported his aggressive approach found themselves isolated as more and more civilizations questioned whether the old ways still made sense. In his place, they elected Counselor Marin, the Taurian representative who had advocated for negotiation from the beginning. Marin's first act as High Counselor was to send a message to President Helen Carter. It was simple and direct. We need to talk. Really talk this time. The meeting was arranged aboard the human diplomatic vessel Horizon, a ship specifically designed for negotiations and conferences. It was neutral ground, positioned in empty space halfway between Earth and Centralis Prime. Security was tight on both sides. The Council feared a trap. Humanity feared an assassination attempt. Ambassador Chris Hayes led the human delegation. Chris was a former professor of international relations who had made the transition to galactic diplomacy with surprising skill. He understood that this meeting would determine the future of the galaxy for generations to come. With him was Dr. Nancy Price, humanity's leading expert on alien cultures. Nancy had spent the past year studying every species in the Council, learning their customs, values, and ways of thinking. Her insights had been invaluable in helping humanity navigate the complex web of galactic politics. High Counselor Marin arrived with a small delegation. She looked tired, like someone who had been fighting battles on multiple fronts. In a way, she had been. The Council was deeply divided, with some members still wanting to crush the human rebellion, and others ready to accept the new reality. President Carter asked me to convey her respect for your courage in coming here, Chris said as they sat down at the negotiating table. She knows this meeting won't be popular with everyone on your council. Many of them think I'm a traitor, Marin admitted. They say I'm giving away everything the council has built over 10,000 years. But I think I'm saving what we built by recognizing that times have changed. Dr. Nancy Price leaned forward. High Counselor, may I speak frankly? Please do, Marin replied. The council system worked for a long time because every species you encountered was either primitive enough to be controlled or wise enough to accept your authority, Nancy said. But humanity is neither primitive nor willing to be controlled. We're something you've never dealt with before. A species with advanced technology and a cultural obsession with freedom. You can't intimidate us, and you can't convince us to give up our independence. So the question becomes, can we find a way to coexist? Marin was quiet for a moment. You're right, of course. The council was built on the assumption that we would always be the strongest, the wisest, the most advanced. The humans have shattered that assumption, but here's what I need you to understand. The council wasn't created to oppress people. It was created to prevent chaos. Before the council, this galaxy was filled with war. Species fought species. Planets were destroyed. Billions died. The council brought order, peace, and prosperity. At the cost of freedom, Chris replied. Yes, Marin agreed. That was the price we thought was necessary. Maybe we were wrong, or maybe the price has become too high. That's what we're here to determine. The negotiations lasted for 3 weeks. It was slow, difficult work. Both sides had to give up deeply held beliefs and accept new realities. The council wanted humanity to acknowledge their authority in some form. Chris refused. We're not your subjects, and we never will be. If you want a relationship with humanity, it has to be as equals. Humanity wanted the council to release all species who wished to leave. Marin pushed back. If we simply let everyone go, the galaxy will descend into chaos. There are species who depend on the council for protection and support. Then let them choose, Nancy suggested. Give every species a real choice. They can stay in the council if they want, but if they want to leave, you let them go peacefully. Admiral Kevin Shaw, monitoring the negotiations from Earth, had positioned fleets near 3 major council worlds, not as a threat, but as a reminder. The council could no longer enforce their will through military might. The Battle of the Frontier Gate had proven that. Finally, on the 21st day of negotiations, they reached an agreement. The Treaty of New Terra would reshape galactic civilization. The key points were simple but revolutionary. Every species would have the right to choose their own government and future. The council would continue to exist, but as a voluntary association rather than a mandatory empire. Species could join or leave as they wished. A new galactic senate would be created where every species, large or small, would have an equal vote on matters affecting the entire galaxy. Trade would be open and free, with no tribute requirements. Military forces would be defensive only, with offensive operations requiring Senate approval. Most importantly, no species could be forced to accept terms they didn't agree to. "This will change everything," Marin said as she signed the treaty. "The council I grew up serving no longer exists." "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," Chris replied, signing for humanity. "The old council brought peace through control. The new Senate can bring peace through cooperation." The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Trillions of beings watched as the most powerful empire in history agreed to share power with species they had once controlled. On Earth, President Helen Carter watched with tears in her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." On Mars Colony, Colonel Amy Rodriguez raised a glass with her crew. "To freedom," she toasted, "and to everyone who was brave enough to fight for it." Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder, looking out at the stars. It had been less than a year since he made first contact with Ambassador Zexthar. That meeting had changed everything. By refusing to accept the Council's terms, he had started a chain of events that liberated dozens of species. "Captain, we're receiving multiple communications from across the galaxy," his communication officer reported. "Species we've never met are thanking us for what we did." Jake smiled. "Tell them we were just standing up for ourselves. They're the ones who had the courage to follow." The Treaty of New Terra went into effect 30 days later. 18 species immediately left the Council and joined the new free alliance with humanity. Another 40 requested referendums to let their populations vote on their future. The old Council shrank to about half its original size, containing only those species who genuinely preferred the traditional system. The galaxy didn't descend into chaos as some had feared. Instead, it blossomed. Species that had been held back by Council regulations began innovating again. Trade increased as the tribute system ended. New alliances formed based on mutual interest rather than forced compliance. There were problems, of course. Some species did go to war with old rivals once the Council's military couldn't intervene. But these conflicts were smaller and shorter than the great wars of the past. The Galactic Senate proved surprisingly effective at mediating disputes and organizing peacekeeping forces when necessary. Admiral Kevin Shaw led the first joint military exercise between forces from 20 different species. Watching them work together, he felt optimistic about the future. "We're not just a coalition anymore," he told his staff. "We're becoming a real community." Dr. Nancy Price established the Institute for Galactic Understanding, a place where beings from all species could come to learn about each other's cultures. She taught the first class herself, with students from 15 different worlds. "The key to peace isn't control," she told them. "It's understanding. Learn about each other, respect each other's differences, and work together when you share common goals." 5 years after first contact, Captain Jake Morrison attended a ceremony at the Galactic Senate building on New Terra, a neutral world chosen as the capital of the new Galactic Order. 20 flags flew outside the building, representing the founding members of the Free Alliance. More were being added every month. Inside, High Counselor Marin was giving her final speech before retiring. "When I was young, I was taught that the Council was eternal, that our way was the only way. The humans taught me something different. They taught me that freedom is not something to be feared or controlled. It's something to be celebrated and protected. Yes, freedom is messy. Yes, it leads to disagreements and conflicts. But it also leads to innovation, growth, and genuine cooperation born from choice rather than compulsion." She looked directly at Jake. "Captain Morrison, when you refused our terms all those years ago, you didn't just save humanity's freedom, you saved all of us. You reminded the galaxy that living in fear and control is not the same as living in peace. Thank you." The Senate erupted in applause. Jake stood awkwardly, not sure how to respond to being called a hero. He had just been doing what felt right. After the ceremony, President Helen Carter found Jake standing alone on a balcony, looking up at the stars. "You okay?" she asked. "Just thinking," Jake replied. "When I made first contact with the Council, I was terrified I was making a huge mistake. I thought I might have doomed